All right, everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast. So this is for July 31st through August 6th of 2017. And of course, this video is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are new, you definitely want to check the link down below because the signs are different from mainstream astrology. So you want to make sure you're watching this video for your right signs. So first, we're going to look at this collectively for everyone for the week, and then we'll get into the individual signs. There's timestamps down in the comment section. You can click the time next to your sign, and it'll take you directly to that portion of this video. But let's go and look at this collectively first to get some context and some stuff to build upon once we get into the individuals. Not a whole lot going on this week, but an important week. We've got a very important aspect, Jupiter squaring up to Pluto, going exact here around Friday. And this aspect's been going on since November of last year, November 24th to be exact. And we had the second contact, March 30th, and now we have the last one here, August 4th. So this has been an important time of transforming our perspective on things. You know, Jupiter is the planet of our beliefs. It's the planet of what we think is possible in life. And Pluto is the planet of deep change and facing fears to make change, right? And to be as non-attached as possible to outcome, because it's through that non-attachment to outcome that we free ourselves to make the change that we would otherwise not make because of the fear. So these two planets in this square, which typically squares with Jupiter, come across as actually quite positive because Jupiter is a benefic. So this has been this perhaps perspective about, yes, we can make change in our personal life, or at least understanding the bigger picture and seeing the bigger picture. So our worldview's been changing. Our beliefs about what's possible has been changing. And this is now the last and final contact with that. So the first contact, if you can think back, if there was anything around late November, early December, that you felt inspired to change in your life, or you started to see things in a new perspective. And this could be positive, negative. It's not so much, what the mind is polarizing it, but is there anything that you saw that can be expounded upon, that you felt inspired towards, to maybe take some action to build? And that's what the square is all about. So the second contact was March 30th. And so this would have likely been some sort of shift of perspective again, but at least understanding a little bit more about the possibilities and the importance of changing our belief system, the importance of seeing potentials and possibilities to open our horizons. And it may have been requiring some fears to do that. But since March, this has been the action steps. This has been the implementation of actually, in this case, taking the action with the square to make the changes that we do want to see, to make the changes based on that inspiration or on that new perspective or this more expansive belief system. So because it's a square, though, it can swing Jupiter. Jupiter is a benefic, but it can be over-optimism, it can be under-optimism. It's certainly swinging. But the most important thing with this is understanding that this has been, and especially this week, is a fantastic time to make changes based on our beliefs, based on our inspiration, based on this new worldview that has been changing this year. So this week could be a culmination with some of this, is if there's been anything since late November and anything that shifted in late March for you in regards to something specific in your life. It could be a week of change, of final change or implementation with the last contact. Again, we'll get into the individual houses to see exactly which areas of life this is associated for you. Generally and collectively, it's this change to perspective, especially because Pluto's been in Sagittarius. And so there's been this already for the past many years, since like 2007, this already transformation to what we see as possible and to our life path, and to letting go of fears in order to make the changes along that life journey. So Jupiter, of course, rules Sag, so that's where the association is with that. And since this same time, Jupiter's been in Virgo. So to make this change, it's been very important for us to really focus on what we do have control over. And this is things like our routine, or our time, or our energy, or sometimes with Virgo, our work, right? The day-to-day. Anything we do on a daily level that's about improving things or building our skills or improving ourselves through personal development, this is where the opportunities are collectively for everyone, Jupiter and Virgo. And so this is a strength to this. This is where Jupiter's coming in and saying, okay, look, through this personal development, this improvement, we can be facilitating this change. We can be taking those action steps with the square to buckle down and now maybe make some of these final integrations or take these final steps in regards to that this week. All right, so it'll likely be, all week long in terms of this. We don't feel it that personally because it's not involving personal planets, but it's involving our life in some way. Something about our life path, something about the bigger perspective, right, and how we see things. Now, what's also very important about this week is that we're going to be approaching a lunar eclipse here on Monday of next week. Okay, so as we go through this week, there is more and more of this illumination. The lunar eclipse is like a full moon. Okay, so for those of you who know that full moon is about awareness, it's about cultivation, it's about actually gaining energy throughout the week as well as that moon gets fuller. But this lunar eclipse is a south node lunar eclipse. Okay, and so south node is about releasing. It's about making changes that will require us to release things, to let go of the past. The south node is often associated with past life, past karma, past patterns, and even comforts and yearnings that we've built. So recently the south node has shifted into Capricorn these past couple months. And so there's been this shift of now understanding that maybe there are some imbalances with the Capricorn energy that we are bringing now back into balance with this lunar eclipse. So I'm going to talk about this lunar eclipse in more detail. I'll make a video probably early in the week to get it out early, get the information out early. But essentially what this is about is now becoming aware as we get into this weekend and especially around Monday, aware of what we can release in our life. What are these yearnings, attachments, past life energy? These comforts, these things that we default into because we find familiar and comfortable that we can release, let go of, to liberate ourselves, to free ourselves. And that's what the south node's all about. And then in a couple of weeks after that, we're going to have the solar eclipse, which will be a north node solar eclipse, which are both associated with new beginnings. And that'll be about Leo, creativity, self-expression, all of this. But before we can go into the new journey, we do have to release some baggage. We got to release some past karmic energy, okay? And this is what's collectively taking place early next week. All right, and it is in Capricorn. This has been a recent shift where there might be some unhealthy patterns relating to the side of ourself that is reserved, the side of ourself that is detached. And with the south node, maybe overly reserved, overly detached, overly cautious, perhaps, with Capricorn. Okay, so some things to consider. Like I said, I'll break this down in more detail with the specifics lunar eclipse report, but we'll talk about this for the individual signs to see which house Capricorn is. But yeah, collectively, this past life energy of the density of the physical realm, of our attachment to the physical realm with the south node in Capricorn. And through that awareness that the lunar eclipse is going to give us, we become more aware of what to release, what we're letting go of, in order to transition along this life journey. All right, so yeah, very important week, even though there's not a whole lot of aspects, which is actually good because it helps us concentrate on some of this, what I think is very important stuff. Jupiter squaring up to Pluto, especially around Friday, and then that lunar eclipse around Monday. So a couple other things this week I do want to mention coming into it on Monday of this week. Venus is going into Gemini. And so there will likely be the shift of what we value. We've been valuing a lot of the more earthy aspects of things with Taurus, or the slow and steady approach to things. But now Venus in Gemini Could be enjoying some ideas. We could be understanding more about what we value about like ideas and thinking and sharing, exchanging with others. All right, we could be enjoying some learning perhaps, be very curious with this. Really good for practicality. And so that's the enjoyment. And these are the values we're going to start to see collectively about these Geminian things. All right, and maybe even in relationships, right? Sharing ideas, communication, more of the mental side to it, which could be actually very enjoyable. All right, so that's the shift right off the bat at the beginning of the week. And then we do have Uranus going retrograde midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, so this, of course, happens once a year, but and it's very deep collectively. But the house is always important, so we'll look at the house. But collectively, this has been Uranus in Pisces. And so now there's this redoing or rethinking about this importance of freedom. And this has been particularly the freedom of letting go, the freedom of detaching. What happens when we fully, surrender is there's a tremendous freedom that arises from that. So that's what Uranus in Pisces has been helping us do. And we sort of get a bit of a break with it if, depending on your personal chart, if you have been feeling like breaking through, breaking free, or anything like that this year, this could be a bit of a break with that, a pause, as now Uranus goes retrograde. Okay, so it's an easing up of the Uranus energy of that liberation, that freedom. But at the same time, it's a great time to be reflecting on and thinking about and perhaps redoing some things in our life in regards to where we can have more freedom. And particularly freedom of letting go, which is the Pisces collective energy there. All right, so we'll see what house that is. And then Friday, very important. Jupiter squares up to Pluto. And then as we go into next week, that lunar eclipse. All right. So, and also as a backdrop, I do want to mention that we still do have a lot of Cancer energy this week. Okay. The sun's going to be here all week. Mars is still here. And so there is still this, really important connection to our feelings, to our soul right now, to our inner guidance. So a lot of this perhaps reflection on the past, right? And understanding more, having this conscious awareness about what we value sentimentally, emotionally, intrinsically, on that deep soul level. So that's still very strong, and that will be shifting actually next week. The sun will be going into Leo. We do have some Leo energy still, of course. Mercury's still here, so our mind is thinking in terms of maybe expressing ourselves, having some fun, some creative thinking with Mercury and Leo. So there's a bit of that spice with Leo along with that watery Cancer energy as well, but that has more to do with maybe how we're expressing ourselves, communicating, and thinking about things. All right, so this week, certainly these three signs, Gemini, enjoying a bit of that inquisitiveness, all right, learning, sharing, and Cancer, getting in touch with our feelings, our soul, our roots, and Leo, thinking about things in terms of, creativity, self-expression, and maybe even a bit of fun and playfulness. All right, so now let's go and look at this individually. You can go down to the comment section, click the timestamp next to your signs. I do recommend watching this for your sun sign, moon sign, and your ascendant, if you know all three. I do get asked quite a bit what these differences are. So the sun is your outer focus for the week. It's very much your external manifestation, what you're focused on, right? Very obviously with the sun in terms of the outer awareness. The moon horoscope is showing you what's going on internally. What are the spiritual transformations throughout the week? And sometimes you'll identify more with your sun, sometimes you'll identify more with your moon, but they're both certainly important. And so if the sun is the outer focus, the moon is the inner, what we're concerned about, what we're feeling, and that spirit and the spiritual process of the week. And then the ascendant is just kind of like your overall. It's actually the most accurate in my opinion, but again, it depends on what you identify with. But the ascendant is like your overall life path journey for the week. Okay, it's a very general forecast, of course, but it does give you a good idea about how life is unfolding for you. You could even say both in an outer and inner sense, but specifically relating to your journey and your life path and how things are unfolding along the way. All right, so let's go and look at this individually. Aries, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's talk about, real quick, a general backdrop to the week for you is that your ruler Mars and the Sun are both in your 4th house. Okay, so it's still a week where I think it's good to be connecting to either your home life or maybe your health for some of you. Some of you may be finding this Mars in the 4th really good for physical exercise, activity, to really connect to your body and your, to improve your health perhaps. Or if not, maybe you're finding that there's some drive and motivation towards your home life. Maybe some of you are remodeling, restructuring things. Maybe some of you are doing active things with family, that kind of stuff. Maybe even leadership as well. So it's very much concentrated at the bottom of the chart. I think it's important to know that this part of the year, especially with Mars down here too, it is a low kind of energy, right? And it's because the energy is best channeled through these more personal things in life, like home and health and things like that. So whatever the outlet is for you, this is all part of this cycle still, this whole lunar cycle. So really good for cultivating those roots in your life, those foundations. And again, reflecting on the past and your personal life, and you're connecting to your soul, and all this is very important at this time. Now, at the beginning of the week, Venus is going to be shifting into your 3rd house. So I think you will be, like I was saying in the collective, especially for your sign, enjoying a bit of this inquisitive energy. You might find that you're enjoying reading some books or doing some writing or some journaling, maybe sharing some ideas with others. It could very well be relationship related for a lot of you, but really enjoying the practical side of things and exchanging and sharing and that type of thing. Okay. So Wednesday, Thursday, that Uranus goes retrograde in your 12th house. Uranus has been here for the past 8 years, helping you find that freedom through getting your alone time, which helps you surrender, right? To have faith, to have trust in everything that is outside of your control, or the divine process, or God, or the universe, whatever your personal philosophy is on that. But now you get a bit of a break with this. Uranus going retrograde is suggesting that around midweek, you may start to reconsider the importance of these generally spiritual activities, whether it is spiritual activities or you getting your alone time or more rest, the importance of this and rethinking this. How can you redo this area, this area of finding peace and connecting to yourself on a deep level and to your beingness that is helping you have that freedom in your life. So very good to reconsider now for about the next 6 months with that Uranus retrograde. And if there is anything in your life that is relating to this 12th house that I just talked about, there could be now a shift of now redoing it specifically during the retrograde. All right, so Friday is the Jupiter squaring up to Pluto, very important collective energy. This has been Jupiter in your 6th house, so it's been an excellent time, tail end of last year, this year, for self-improvement. Your work, you could be seeing opportunities through your work actually at this time. Or maybe you're just feeling a bit inspired to do your work or develop your crafts and your skills or your routine and your personal growth and all of this. At least it's an excellent time for that. So with that, there's now this final change here that's occurring where you can, I think, take the actions and the steps to maybe make some changes with the day-to-day, with that routine, whatever it is you do on that daily level, especially if it requires you seeing things from a new perspective, which is that Pluto and Sagittarius in your 9th house. Changing your perspective, changing your belief system, and then taking the action steps to cultivate these opportunities here. So, like I was saying in the general, but for you, your perspective is certainly changing. Jupiter rules that 9th house, being squared by Pluto. It's very good to be open at this time, right? Be open to things that we may not normally be open to, right? To expand our mental horizons, to tap into a bit of that inspiration, and then actually use it constructively in these areas, whether it has to do with the day-to-day of the 6th, but also to expand your horizons and tap into your adventurous spirit, because that's kind of the key where Pluto is. That's where we can face the fears of the life path, the fears of the potentials, fears of our belief system, all right? Accepting of those fears is what liberates us and frees us up to make the changes we do want to see. Jupiter also does rule that 12th house, Pisces, for you. So this could also be associated with this now retrograde of Uranus, this much deeper thing taking place about you on a spiritual level, and how maybe making some changes so yes, you can have more peace in your life could be very important this week. So I see it's a very positive thing, and again, it's been going on since November, and so now it's the final integration with this. All right, so Aries, that's the week in a nutshell. And then, of course, we do have that lunar eclipse very early next week, which I'll do a video on. But this is going to be in your 10th house of career. It's going to be in the 10th house of productivity, of achievement, of success. I think it might be time, if you're guided to make some changes here to bring more balance back to this area. Especially if lately, this past month or so, if you've been feeling like there might be some unhealthy comforts here that we're retreating into that are about maybe an over extreme or under extreme, and just not enough balance with your career life or your productive life. So this lunar eclipse will help give you the awareness of what kind of changes that will be. But I just kind of want to give you a preface that as you go through this week, you may start to gain some more insight about your career and your productive life, absolutely. But particularly how maybe letting some things go, allowing to let go some yearnings, some attachments, right? Some comforts with it, as a security blanket almost with the South Node, can liberate us, can free us up so that we can then have more balance with that area. All right, so, but generally Aries this week, yes, I would say certainly this concentration down here in your 4th house, personal area, enjoying a bit of that inquisitiveness. Really good still to be expressing yourself with Mercury in your 5th, actually, although he's not forming any aspects this week. Jupiter squaring Pluto, these changes to your routine or to your spiritual self by changing your belief systems and seeing the larger perspective, as well as rethinking maybe this whole spiritual dynamic of life about the importance of surrender, letting go, and the freedom that arises from that. All right, so Aries, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares with these videos. So let me know if you have any questions, but I'll see you all very soon, probably next week for some of the daily forecasts regarding to some of this energy I'm talking about. All right, Aries, have a good one. Take care. Taurus, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's talk about your ruler Venus going into your second house right at the beginning of the week. Second house is the house of finance, of resources, and it's really your house. But fundamentally, it's the house of cultivating our inner resources first, right? Our self-reliance, which is all about you, Taurus, right? This is what you're developing in this life and cultivating is this resourcefulness, this inner resilience, right? This standing on your own 2 feet, taking steps slow and steadily towards your goals, towards your values, and enjoying things along the way. So Venus can certainly now help you attract and enjoy maybe some of the financial material aspects of life some more, help you connect here, enjoy what Earth has to provide, the resources that Earth provides us, and connecting to your own inner resources, your own inner resilience, your inner sense of self-worth and self-reliance. That can be very enjoyable now going through these next few weeks, and really just emphasizing this area for you, since of course it is your ruler. There can certainly be unfoldments with this type of stuff. All right, so Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus is going retrograde in your 11th house. I think it's been important for about the past 8 years or so for you to be really finding the freedom of groups or community, perhaps for some of you, being who you truly are and contributing to something larger than yourself. And so if you've been feeling that, this sort of pull here to contribute or be a part of something larger than yourself, whether it's the world at large or an organization you're a part of, or maybe it's involving your friends in your community. But this networking area of the chart, now you get a bit of a break with some of this. And you may start to now reconsider some of these things. All right, reconsider some of these ideals of yours. And it also applies personally in the sense that the 11th house is the house of our aspirations. All right, so it's not only what we idealize for the world and the community and all this, but also what we idealize for ourselves, our hopes and wishes for the future. It's very future oriented. And so it's been very liberating here for you to find the freedom with this, really the freedom of individuality with all that. But now it's time to maybe reconsider some of this, rethink your aspirations, rethink the future stuff, redo it. And through this redoing process over the next 6 months roughly, you're going to find that you're learning a lot about it, and it's really helping you establish and develop this area even more. So you can continue to develop that freedom with this area. Now, Friday is the Jupiter square up to Pluto. So there is this collective energy, right, taking place since November I was talking about. This has very much been emphasizing your 5th house of your self-expression. Okay, so it's been a great time since late last year and all of this year to be expressing yourself, maybe having a bit of fun, getting into your creative side, right? And anything you create or that's close to your heart is just really good to be expanding upon, either connecting to or developing. So because of this square, though, since November, it's been this maybe inspiration to create or inspiration to express yourself and have some fun or whatever this is. It's also the house of romance, children, creativity, speculation. So anything in those areas is really good to now maybe challenge yourself with this week that you've maybe been working on developing since November, that now you can, really face the fears, if there are any, with the square to Pluto, to make the changes that you want to see in this area. And it's the final one. And usually the final aspect is much easier to work with. We've already been acclimated to it. We've already been working with it since November. So now it's like this final integration, this final culmination even too. If you look back to November, if there's anything specific about this 5th house, it could be a high point with it. It could be a culmination. And so now it's this final shift, this integration that's taking place here that then is going to lock into your being for you to then, cultivate more into the future, of course, but it'll be a part of you, in terms of your beingness. So, very good to challenge yourself this week with anything on that level. Jupiter is also the ruler of your 8th house, which is where Pluto is. So this could have to do with maybe matters relating to deep things or vulnerability, openness, healing, transformation, change, but fundamentally getting into the deeper side to life, deeper side of yourself, most fundamentally. And so that could be playing a role in anything you can challenge yourself with this week. And then also the 11th house is where that Uranus is. So with this reconsideration about these aspirations or these things greater than yourself, either or both, there is also this challenge that you can take some steps towards to, yes, cultivate your aspirations. Maybe, cultivate some of these network related things. So very good week for that stuff. Very good week for us to challenge ourselves in general and to really accept those fears, if there are any, which will help facilitate this transformation that's occurring for all of us and for you in those areas. All right, so that's the week in a nutshell. Next week, we do have that lunar eclipse. That's going to be taking place in your 9th house. So matters relating to travel, adventure, philosophy, higher learning, university studies, anything that expands your horizons is now up for this re-examination or this illumination in terms of, are there any imbalances here? Are there any comforts? Anything we're retreating into to hide away or to avoid regarding this area or in this area? And so this will become more clear about what that is probably this weekend and especially around Monday. But want to give you a heads up that as we go through this week, there is more illumination about this now spiritual releasing that we're doing, and for you involving the 9th house. And the 9th house is the house of our beliefs. So letting go of maybe limiting beliefs, limiting perspectives, and again, it's going to help you bring more balance back to your perspective, to your life path, and accessing this now healthy, adventurous spirit. All right, Taurus, so have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know down in the comments section how you're feeling this energy, and so others can sort of gain some other perspectives as well if you're guided to. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares as well. And I'll see you all next week, actually, for the daily forecast. Take care. Geminis, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's first talk about how Venus is going into your sign here at the beginning of the week on Monday, coming out of your 12th house, which is actually not a bad house for Venus to be in. You may have been enjoying a bit of that alone time, behind the scenes activities, spiritual stuff, meditation perhaps, things like that, creative energy, music. But now it's shifting into your sign. So you'll likely find this week and for the coming weeks a bit more of this enjoyment about taking action, about being direct, about expressing yourself. And with Venus in the first, sometimes we're feeling good, looking good, right? We have that attractiveness about us. We're actually able to attract things into our life, actually, and people into our life at this time as well. But you're enjoying it, yeah, maybe enjoying relationships, enjoying a bit of self-expression, and even, too, a bit of that easygoingness, which is Venus, who was in your 12th, rules your 12th, going into the first. Gives you a bit of that easygoingness in your personality. So that's going to be a shift. As a backdrop, though, Mercury, your ruler, still in your 3rd house, so still really good for learning, reading, writing, communication, basically the stuff that's associated with your sign anyways. So this practical stuff, you got a very practical mind, I think, right now, and you can really channel that into whichever area, right? Some of you are reading, writing, trading, business, communication, things like that, certainly emphasized. So midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, that Uranus goes retrograde in your 10th house of career. So it's been important these past roughly 8 years of you finding freedom in your career, maybe trying a bunch of different things in your career. Some of you may be getting technological or innovative there as well. So now it's an excellent time to reconsider, rethink, and redo some of these career-related things. And when I say career, it's essentially anything productive. So, some of you are like stay-at-home moms and dads, and that's your career, or some of you are working on like nonprofits or things. So it's not always for income, but it's things that you're doing to give back and contribute to society at large in some way. And so whatever that's been for you in terms of you changing, having more freedom with, and even getting innovative with, and trying a bunch of different things with, now I think you're going to be learning a lot about this area for about the next 6 months. Now this does happen once a year, right? So it's not a major thing, but midweek, if you do notice something shifting about what you can relearn about this area, redo about this area, I think it's excellent. And the stuff you do learn and the insights you gain during the retrograde be very valuable to you for the coming years as Uranus finishes up that 10th house of yours. All right, so, and again, the emphasis is about freedom, right? So re-examining, generally for all of us, re-examining what it means to be free, right? And how that applies to your career there. Now, Friday, Jupiter squares up to Pluto, and this is going to be the very important emphasis that's been on your home life or your health for about, it's been a while now. It's been over 9 months, I'm pretty sure, with Jupiter down here. And so now, particularly since November, if there's been anything that you felt inspired towards in this area or has been expanding for you in this area, home, health, or some very common examples with the fourth, but your roots essentially, and even, uncovering more about your past and your soul and your inner guidance and your intrinsic values. So there, now with this square to Pluto, this is final integration, this final change. If there is anything this week that you feel guided to take some steps towards, that may be challenging with the square to Pluto, but to take some steps towards, to cultivate this area, might be a very good week to do that. Now, Jupiter also rules your 7th house of relationships, which is actually where Pluto is as well. So a lot of you have been going through this metamorphosis with relationships, this releasing of past energy with relationships, particularly the control and attachment to this area, whether it's about a relationship in particular or just relationships in general, probably more so the latter. So Pluto's been helping you release the fears, which is why we have the control and the attachment. So if there's anything that you're feeling like making some changes with on the interpersonal level, with relationships, could be an excellent week to do that, to challenge yourself to do that. And Jupiter also rules that 10th house of career, where Uranus is going retrograde. So there's definitely something shifting here in this productive area, where again, with this square to Pluto, where you can take some steps and some actions towards making those changes. And the same general stuff applies in the collective reading about changing your perspective, your belief system, because of the nature of Sag and of Jupiter here. But it's involving these key areas. Your 4th house of home, which is where the expansion is, or of health. Lots to learn, lots to expand. Really good to, build these foundations right now. But see how maybe there are some changes with your perspective on relationships, one-to-one connections, fears you can face and accept to help you make some positive changes there as well. And then also with your career, your productive life. All right, it's involving those areas. So very powerful. And again, if there's been anything in particular since November regarding these things in this light, it could be a culmination and a final integration of these things there this week. Now, I do want to mention how we do have this lunar eclipse next week, early on Monday. That's going to be in your 8th house. So this is going to be illuminating now this deeper side to life about the importance of vulnerability with ourself, with life, openness, and sometimes too the 8th house is the house of getting deeper in relationships through that vulnerability as well, but maybe even too having that trust, right? Trusting others with our feelings, our emotions, and also shared resources too. So some of you, maybe it'll be a good time to be releasing any bondages to debts or loans or anything that is, other people's money that we're sort of bound to in some way. So some of you during this time period, over about this next year, year and a half with the South Node in Capricorn, helping you release, get, and break some shackles, break some chains in regards to some things that we might be in bondage to. So that could be on the material level, but even too on the emotional level as well. It's going to be, and it is right now, a really good time for your self-reliance, your independence when it comes to the financial side to life. Standing on your own 2 feet, cultivating your values, your resources. That's really activated right now with Mars and the Sun in your second. So that's going to be a great area of focus, especially as the North Node makes its way into Cancer. So with this, it's suggesting that maybe this self-reliance is what's needed here to sort of bring more balance back to this interdependent side to life. But it's not about pushing anything away. It's about bringing more health back to this area, because of course we all do live in an interdependent world, and we all rely on each other. And as you sort of release any comforts here, or again, make some changes you want to see here, help you bring some more balance back to this area. All right, so Geminis, that's the week in a nutshell. I would say most importantly, Venus in your first house, this beauty and attraction here to your being and just enjoying things on a more, enjoyable level, right? Sensual level, maybe with relationships, and you expressing yourself could certainly be emphasized. Bit of that easygoingness. You got a lot of concentration in your second house of resources, really good for the motivation there. And learning practical knowledge and all of that, right? Inquisitiveness, which is natural for you anyways. Jupiter squares Pluto there, so there's just transformation occurring with home, relationships, and career for you. And Uranus retrograde is helping you re-examine some of that career stuff in particular, and achievement and success, and having more freedom in that area. All right, Gemini, so have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, comment, and share down below. It's very much appreciated. And I'll see you all next week for some of the daily forecasts associated with some of these aspects. All right, have a good one, Gemini. Take care. All right, Cancers, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's talk about your ruler, the moon, who is going to be in the first quarter phase coming into the week. And so, typically with first quarter, it is a square with the sun. So it is this more either active time or busy time or challenging time. But it's that we want to challenge ourselves, right? So I think coming into this week, really good for taking action steps, challenging yourself. In fact, this whole week is just excellent for all types of personal challenge, right? With the Jupiter square Pluto in particular, which I'll talk about. But as the week unfolds, you're likely going to find a bit of momentum, a bit of support based on the action you took earlier in the week. As the moon starts to get fuller in the gibbous phase, more supportive phase. And then as we get into this weekend, and especially around Monday, that's when we come to the high point of the cycle. It will be a lunar eclipse, very powerful. And that awareness probably this weekend, but especially around Monday, about relationships, about the importance of them in terms of bringing some balance back. Maybe there are some past life energies that are coming up now in regards to this area. Maybe there are some things you could be noticing that you may want to make some changes with so you can bring more health back to this area, right? These types of things. But in either case, an illumination of this area and what you can maybe do to cultivate healthier relationships, more balance here, interpersonal stuff, mutuality, cooperation, give and take, these types of things. Mutuality essentially with the seventh. So that's going to be the high point of the cycle. It's also a releasing point. Eclipses, I think, are very important for your sign because it involves the moon, right? Especially the lunar eclipse. So a lot of, past life energies being released. It's a spiritual time. I think the illumination is strong, but also two, sitting with the energy. It's spiritual with the South Node, and just becoming aware of what is changing, what is moving, what is really trying to be released. Because when I say release, we're not pushing anything away. It's just there's this flow, this energy that's just naturally wanting to move, and we can allow it to do that. So that's, I think, the most important thing for you this week in terms of the lunar cycle. But some other things is we got Venus at the beginning of the week going into your 12th house on Monday. And so all week you'll probably notice you're enjoying a bit of alone time perhaps, maybe some music, anything that involves imagination, creativity. When Venus is in the 12th, we're very dreamy, imaginative, that type of creativeness. And and maybe just simply enjoying spiritual activities, meditation, yoga, getting that alone time, rest and relaxation is really where the enjoyment is. And you'll be seeing, I think, a lot of value about this area. Now, Uranus is going retrograde midweek in your 9th house. This is the house of adventure, travel, learning, higher learning like university or philosophy, also astrology, and your belief systems. So it's been so important, I think, for about the past 8 or so years for you to be really seeing things in a larger perspective, which can be very freeing and very liberating, right? There's a lot of excitement to be had here with the spirit for life, with that adventurousness, with this expansion of your belief systems. And so now, though, with the retrograde, it's a good time to reconsider this. For about the next 6 months, reconsider how you view things. What are your belief systems? Do you have any limiting beliefs? Because Uranus is not about limitation at all. It's about breaking through limitation, having more freedom with that open road, open horizon. But you do get a bit of a break with the retrograde. It de-emphasizes it and turns it more internal. So now rethinking, reevaluating these 9th house matters, I think, will be very important. And the stuff you learn during this time will be very valuable for you once Uranus goes direct again in terms of implementation. Implementing the ideas you learned during this reflective time. So use this time to reflect there. I think it's excellent. Now, Friday, the very important Jupiter square up to Pluto is involved with your 3rd house. Jupiter's been expanding this area for about the past 10 months now, I believe, helping you really learn, maybe get into the practical side of things. Some of you are maybe seeing, the potentials with reading or writing, learning practical knowledge, the importance of communication in our life, or business and trade, sharing things with others. The marketplace is seen from the 3rd, communication. So all of this inquisitive, practical stuff is really where the opportunities are. And they especially are this week. But maybe there are some things you can challenge yourself towards to cultivate this area. All right. So some of you might be a course. Others, it might be a book you're writing. All right. So these types of things. And so with Pluto, it's about facing the fear, if there are any, but it's square to Jupiter, so there may not be. In fact, this is also the last aspect of it. We've been feeling this since November. So it's almost like a final integration, especially if there's been anything since November you've been cultivating in this area. Okay, but it's really good to take the steps with the square nonetheless to, with Pluto, remove those obstacles, to make those changes, to face those fears, and make the changes in the face of those fears if there are any, or of the resistance, whatever it is. And that could be good, a very, just more expansion for you here in this 3rd house. Now, Jupiter also rules the house Pluto's in here, your 6th. So this could very well have to do with your work. Again, going maybe back to November here. If there's been any changes, and there has been, right, for the past many years, like 10 years with Pluto in Sag, helping you release fears with your work or relating to work. And by that, I mean your day-to-day, your routine, anything you do on a daily level. It's been restructuring. It's been changing. It's been, going through this metamorphosis. So it's another step, another good step in that direction. So what are some things you can face and some changes you can make there with work day to day? Maybe personal growth, personal development. Be excellent, I think. Then there's the 9th house, right? And so this is the house of where that Uranus is going retrograde. So Jupiter rules your 9th. This is now also to this maybe challenge to take some steps towards your life path, towards that adventurous spirit, towards expanding your horizons. Or maybe it's mental horizons through the learning and the philosophy and that type of thing, right? So whatever this is, I think it's involving those key areas. And all in all, with the square, especially by this time, the moon will have this more supportive energy, a bit of momentum here to sort of, restructure, make some of these changes to your beliefs, to your perspective with Jupiter in the third, to how you think about things, right? And then also to relating to communication, learning, exchanging, and then to your work and routine, the day-to-day. All right, so very powerful there. All right, so Cancer, that's the week in a nutshell. If you do have any questions, please do let me know. Actually, one thing I did forget to mention, very important for you, Mars and the Sun are still in your sign, right? So generally, as a backdrop to this week, I think it's still very good to be setting your long-term goals for the year. We just had that new moon in your sign. You got the drive and motivation with Mars in your first house, that directness, which is really good. Even self-expression. Your career could be emphasized, your productive life, in fact. Maybe even what you value, your resources. The Sun rules your second as well. But all in all, you got this vigor, you got this life force. It's in your sign. I think it's great to use it, to take action, right, in whichever way you see fit. And happy birthday for those of you who have your birthdays this week. All right, so Cancers, have a great week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares with these videos. And I'll see you next week for some of the daily forecasts regarding these aspects. Take care. Leo, welcome to your weekly forecast. So the Sun, your ruler's in the 12th house, finishing up the 12th house actually this week, making this a really good time for your alone time, behind the scenes activities, maybe getting some rest and relaxation, whatever's helping you recharge here in this more internalized way of connecting to our being, and maybe even learning too about your psychology, what you can accept about your life or of yourself, that as a result of being fully accepting of how things are in the present moment, we find that liberation, that spiritual freedom. So that's the 12th house, very much activated for you. You could even be getting things done in a more receptive way, which is good with that Mars in the 12th, right? A bit of that receptive action and recharging and finding that flow of life and sort of listening to your intuition and putting energy where life is taking you, where that flow is. So that's still a very important emphasis for you this week. Now, of course, we do have that lunar eclipse early next week. So always important for your sign and Cancers as well, who are ruled by the sun and moon, when this happens, these eclipses. So one thing I want to mention is as you go through this week, you're likely going to become more and more aware of this importance of what you're changing here with maybe your routine or your work or your day-to-day. Okay, the South Node's going into the 6th, or recently has gone into the 6th. Now you got this lunar eclipse, which is going to be illuminating this 6th house for you, mostly this weekend. And so with the insight you gain at this time, it's that of a spiritual nature. It's that of becoming aware of maybe some past energy in terms of, is there anything with the routine or the work that we're defaulting into or attached to or relying on. All right. So through that awareness, it's, and especially around Monday, it's going to help you release these energies and become more aware of what this spiritual transformation is regarding bringing balance back to your routine, to your work, to your personal development. All right. So now looking at this in terms of how things are unfolding this week, at the beginning, we do have Venus going into your 11th house. A lot of you have been enjoying your work, productive life, more than likely. But now a shift into your 11th house. Some of you may be enjoying spending some time with friends, maybe getting in contact with your community or your network circles, and even too enjoying a bit of future-oriented perspective on things. The 11th house is about our future hopes and wishes and our aspirations. So there's things to attract you. There's things to enjoy here, especially about thinking about the future, maybe the world at large, right? That kind of thing. And of course, you still got Mercury in your sign, so a really good time for just inquisitiveness, practicality. Mercury rules your second house, so your finances could be emphasized. In fact, we'll talk about that with Jupiter. And then, yeah, I think it already kind of has been this emphasis on your aspirations and network circles. Mercury rules your 11th as well. So let's talk about this Uranus retrograde midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, which is in your 8th house. A lot of you, for about the past 8 years, have been finding the freedom of getting deeper in life, with deeper with yourself, healing, transformation, maybe even getting vulnerable and open with life, with yourself, with relationships. So you do get a bit of a break with this now, with Uranus going retrograde, and especially because Chiron's also retrograde here. So this makes it more internalized. But it's a really good time now to reevaluate for about the next 6 months what it means to connect to life on this deeper level, what matters most in life. And even maybe seeing what you can maybe liberate yourself from in terms of debts or bonds, unhealthy attachments, whether it's in the material level or in the emotional level or spiritual level as well. So it's a reconsideration, a rethinking. There could be something shifting here Wednesday, Thursday, about you breaking some chains, what you can do to have more freedom through vulnerability, through non-attachment, and in the physical realm through breaking some bonds if there are any there, anything holding you back materially, right? So reconsidering it. And the stuff you learn for about the next 6 months here will be this sort of kindling, the fuel for what will be implemented once Uranus goes direct in about 6 months in this area. So really good to internalize it, go within, reflect here, maybe redo some things if there's anything 8th house related for you. So now let's talk about Friday, which is this Jupiter squaring up to Pluto. It's been a great time for you to be increasing your net worth or your income, but most fundamentally, your sense of self-worth. What is your time worth, your energy worth? What are you worth? And this could be materially, but fundamentally, it's about you getting self-reliant at this time. There's a lot of expansion to be had here. And that's been going on for about 10 months, but recently, since November, there's been this powerful change occurring here. So if there's been anything in this area, investment savings, or again, this internal self-worth, that has been emphasized since November in terms of you making changes here, you facing some fears, restructuring. Pluto's all about demolishing and then creating anew. It's now in many ways a culmination of it with this final aspect around Friday. And it's this final integration of taking the steps with the square, taking the actions, facing the fears or whatever it is, or the inhibitions. Now, the other side to it is involving your self-expression. Pluto's been in your 5th and Jupiter rules your 5th. So this has been going on for like 10 years in terms of you releasing attachment to your self-expression, right? Because sometimes when we get identified with, the ego identifies with what we're creating, what we're expressing, it creates blockage, it creates restriction. So Pluto's been helping you accept fears here involving your self-expression fundamentally and anything you create or that's close to your heart with the 5th house. And through the acceptance, through the non-attachment of this area, being okay with whatever the outcome is, it's been freeing you up, it's been liberating you. And so now you got this now final step in that direction as well. Right? So anything you can do to challenge yourself with self-expression or the things you're passionate about or close to your heart or you create in life. So they're all 5th house. And whatever it is for you personally. Really good week for taking the steps to, again, make the changes there. Now, Jupiter also rules your 8th where Uranus is going retrograde. So along with this reconsideration about this openness, deeper connection, transformation, right? Connecting to life on this deeper level, with others on this deeper level, with yourself on this deeper level. This is also great to challenge yourself with. So those are the key areas that are changing. And, to challenge ourselves is the best way of working with a square. And here it's involving those key areas. Your resources, inner and outer, your self-expression, and that deeper connection. All right, so very powerful week there culminating a lot of those things. All right, so Leos, have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. So I'll see you next week for the daily videos where I'll talk about some of this in more detail. And I'll probably get that lunar eclipse video out earlier too, so that you get a bit of a heads up for the very important lunar eclipse we got coming up. All right, Leo, have a good one. Talk to you soon. Take care. Virgo, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's talk about Mercury, your ruler in the 12th house, your 12th house, here behind the scenes. I think a lot of you are maybe spending some time alone or getting your rest, maybe doing things like spirituality, like meditation, yoga, maybe getting in touch with yourself psychologically or understanding more about yourself, you know, in terms of your unconscious, your inner beingness. So Mercury is going to go retrograde next week. I thought it was this week. I think I said that in the last forecast, but it's next week. But he is slowing down nonetheless. So the point is I think there's going to be a lot to learn in regards to this importance of surrender, having peace in your life, and of connecting to your beingness. And but it's great to learn now. I mean, Mercury's all about learning. So it's just really good to get inquisitive with this area, try new things with it, maybe enjoy a bit of this R&R or whatever is taking place here for you. Not to mention the fact, too, that this is going to be the location of the solar eclipse here in a few weeks. You know, starting a whole new beginning spiritually for you, spiritual transformation, having more peace in your life. True happiness is really what the 12th house is. You know, it's that... that inner peace, the inner bliss, the connection to life once we're fully accepting. So it's always a process and there's always layers and, you know, it's always ongoing, but this is kind of what is shaping up for you. So enjoying some of this now, getting some of that R&R, whatever it is, I think is a great way of setting the foundation of this transformation here. So that's your Mercury. Venus is shifting into your 10th at the beginning of this week on Monday. And that's going to be in regards to your career. A lot of you might be enjoying a bit of productive life. Maybe some of you forming some relationships at work or, you know, in your career or publicly, whatever that means for you. And then also, too, just seeing potentials with it. Venus rules your 9th. Going into the 10th, you can see some potentials. There might even be some opportunities for you career-wise for the next few weeks. And maybe even seeing what you value about your career. Venus rules your 2nd. And maybe even, you know, extracting some value from your career, whether it's financial, but also, too, you know, what you enjoy about it, the value on that level, right? And not to mention, you have all this energy still in your 11th house, which is the house of deriving value from your career. Really good motivation and drive there. There's focus here. And it's also the area of connecting to your network. So for those of you who have been maybe recently more motivated or driven here, or starting some new things with this during last week's new moon. Really good week for focusing on networks, friends, community, or if it's more personal, maybe your future aspirations. It's all about the future. And so it could be future for you and your community or the world, but also, you know, in many ways, fundamentally for you in regards to your future hopes and wishes generally, right? Inspirations there. Very good for that energy. So midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus does go retrograde in your 7th house of relationships. I think there's been a big emphasis of freedom in your relationships for about the past 8 years, the importance of that. And so now this reconsideration, this rethinking about the importance of freedom when it comes to relationships. Because, of course, this is the house of sharing and cooperation and giving, give and take, just mutuality. But sometimes in order to have healthy relationships, we do need to have freedom, right? We can't be bound. We can't be held down. Either one of, whatever the relationship is and either on either side of it. So it's been in emphasizing that importance of freedom. And so now you do get a bit of a break with that if it's felt more of a bottlenecking energy with Uranus. But generally, it's now just this shift where I think you'll be rethinking and reflecting on this. This freedom here of relationships. And so for about the next 6 months, really good to re-examine it, rethink it, redo it. And all the stuff you learn now for the next 6 months involving this will be information, will be valuable information and insight for you to then implement once Uranus goes direct 6 months from now. So use this time to go within, rethink, and reconsider this sort of stuff. And I think you'll find it to be very valuable. Now, Friday is the Jupiter square up to Pluto, and this is Jupiter in your first house. So it's been for about the past 10 months really good for you to be expanding your horizons, thinking big potentials. Maybe a lot of you are just very independent right now, which can be great. It could be even emphasizing home, family, and relationships as well. Just all in all getting emphasized. And the importance of independence in relationships, and maybe you're more direct with them, or you're more aware of your needs with them, your desires there. So anyways, these things, basically yourself, your home or health, and your relationships are going through this metamorphosis this week, as they have been since November of last year. And so if there's anything you can challenge yourself towards this week to make some steps towards, again, involving maybe your independence, your goals, your wants, your needs, maybe involving home or family. In fact, the home, family, and health sector has been going through, I think, big changes these past 10 years, since around 2007 with Pluto and Sag, of, off and on accepting fears that are associated with your soul, with your roots, with your foundations. And through the acceptance of those fears, freeing yourself up here, liberating yourself. And so now it's another great step to take in that direction if you're guided to. But that's what the squares are. Squares are all about taking action. And in that way, it becomes very constructive. And in fact, I don't think it's going to be that challenging. One, because it's Jupiter, and two, because we've already been experiencing it since November. So we're already very acclimated to this. And it's in many ways this final shift and culmination with these areas. And again, with relationships. Okay? So very good for that building, that integrity, that structure, that challenging to ourselves to cultivate these areas in the face of any inhibitions or fears that may or may not come up with Pluto. But in either case, yeah, it's very good for that initiation, especially when Jupiter's in the first like that. All right, so that's the week in a nutshell. And as I said, there is that lunar eclipse, which I'll break down in more detail next week, but that's going to be in your 5th house. All right, so this is going to be an illumination next week about your self-expression, about your creative side, about the things that are close to your heart. Okay, anything or anyone or any concept or whatever that's close to your heart is getting this now awareness, and the awareness is going to help you bring more balance back to this area. All right, maybe release some things to help bring some balance there. All right, so Virgos, have a fantastic week. Let me know if you like this video by liking, commenting, and sharing it with your friends and family. It's also a very, very good way of putting out the message about Sidereal. But yeah, wishing you the very best week, and I'll see you all very soon for the daily forecast, actually, next week. All right, Virgo, take care. Libra, welcome to your weekly forecast. So first things first, your ruler Venus is going into your 9th house. I believe last week I was talking about how there's this transformation, this change with your ruler in the 8th house, and how when Venus passes over that 8th to 9th house cusp, it's usually very transformational and in many ways very liberating. So maybe you're feeling that this week. Your personal chart's obviously going to determine that the most, but maybe you are feeling coming into this week a bit more expansive. And maybe give it some time, but yeah, there's this open-mindedness, there's this larger perspective, maybe a bit of adventurousness. Maybe you're opening your mind to things like philosophy, astrology, higher learning, universities. Maybe some of you are going for walks and that type of adventurousness, or connecting abroad. And I think most fundamentally, this is about expanding your belief systems and your perspective on things, the 9th house, the life path. So lots to connect here, lots to enjoy with this area, and it's really setting, I think, a theme in your life in which is involving this more expansive horizon, expanding your horizons here and your belief systems. Now, you do have the Sun and Mars up at the top of the chart, so there should be some pretty good energy and motivation right now for you, again, generally speaking, and very good to channel that into your productive life, career, achievement, success, that type of stuff. And yeah, midweek we got Uranus going retrograde. This is going to be in your 6th house of work and your day-to-day. So there might be a shift here because Uranus has been helping you have more freedom in your day-to-day or with your work for the past 8 years here. And so now you get this re-examination for about the next 6 months about what it means to have freedom with your day-to-day, with your work, with your routine. It also eases it up a little bit too if you have been feeling a little more of bottlenecked energy with it. Sometimes Uranus can be very high frequency, nervous, wants to break out of things. So you get a bit of a pause, but use this next 6 months to reflect and rethink, reconsider the importance of freedom with your day-to-day life. And once Uranus goes direct, I think you'll be able to implement all that insight you're gaining at this time. Now, Friday is the Jupiter square up to Pluto. So this is the very important collective energy going on since November. Jupiter's in your 12th house. So the opportunity right now for you is really about getting your alone time, connecting behind the scenes, rest, relaxation. This has been the case for about the past 10 months. And so it's about you finding, essentially more peace through surrender and learning more about synchronicity and spirituality and all this spiritual stuff, or even about psychology as well, some of you. So this area is going through this metamorphosis now, this final one here around Friday with the square up to Pluto. And a lot of it is involving your mind. I think your mind and your perspective has already been changing. How you think about things has been changing very much for the past 10 years with Pluto in your 3rd. And so since Jupiter rules the 3rd, I think it's really emphasizing this, really emphasizing how, how we think about things really does determine our reality. It's not it by itself. It's not like we just think things and it happens. But how we think about things lays the framework, the foundation for our reality. If we close ourselves off, to certain ideas or things, or we're not, we're just limited. So very good to see how you think about things at this time. If there is anything involving stuff that uses your mind, like practicality, learning, reading or writing, even communication, the importance of communication in life, this is another area that I think it's very good to challenge yourself with, maybe take some steps towards this week. And these two areas, the 12th is like the no mind. It's the mind when it's not thinking, right? So obviously we have a mind to be used as a tool, but we can only use our mind as a tool when we're in a state of presence. That's why things like meditation can certainly help us with that. Become more aware of our mind, so it's not our mind controlling us, it's our spirit, our true self, controlling the mind to use it as a tool for what it is, that physical tool of survival and of figuring out solutions and that type of thing. So that's that side of it. And then there's also that routine and work side of it. Jupiter rules the 6th, which is where Uranus is going retrograde. So where you're re-examining the day-to-day in your work, There's also maybe some steps you can take towards that area as well. All right, if there's any fears that come up with spirituality, with your mind, practicality, with the day-to-day, if there is, really good week to face those fears, make those changes. Again, if there's been anything since November involving this, of expanding on these areas, could be a final culmination, final integration with it. All right, so Libra, that's the week in a nutshell. And then, as I said, there is that lunar eclipse next week on Monday. That's going to be in your 4th house of home and health. So it'll be an illuminating time regarding that. You may actually start to feel that this weekend. The importance of bringing balance back to this area, so it'll give you some awareness about what you can really accept or make some changes with, so you can have balanced roots, good healthy foundations in your life, and home life, family life, perhaps health life. This is going to be the area of illumination for that, bringing back into balance. Not that it's necessarily out of balance, but there will be some awareness of maybe some, attachments or comforts or security blankets that we can let go of to help bring balance back to it, and then from that perspective. All right, Libra, so have a great week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And I'll see you all next week for the daily forecast, where I'll break a lot of these aspects down in more detail for the collective readings. All right, Libra, have a good one. See you soon. Take care. Scorpio and Ophiuchus, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's have a look at your ruler Mars, who's in your 9th house, along with the Sun, and this whole lunar cycle started there in your 9th. So this is the house of your beliefs, right? Very much like the collective reading in terms of, it's a very important week for our beliefs, but it's already kind of been that way. And I think it's really good for you to access that adventurous spirit right now, whether it's of expanding your mind through opening your mind to more possibilities, that limitlessness of seeing greater potentials, and the importance of how what we believe really does shape our reality. It's not just that we believe things and it happens, but the state of mind that we're in, the perspective that we have, determines it. It's like you can look at a cup from one angle, or you can look at it from another angle. When you look at it from another angle, you see things you just didn't see before. So it's about changing perspective. It's about expanding that perspective. Some of you maybe quite literally are accessing a bit of that adventurous spirit right now, which could be very motivating, very good with that. But anything that, expand your horizons is just great. And I think fundamentally with these belief systems. So at the beginning of the week, Venus is going into your 8th house. So I think there's actually quite a bit to enjoy this week and for the next few weeks involving anything deeper in life. Some of you may be enjoying research, uncovering hidden things, maybe about life or the world, maybe about yourself. I think most fundamentally about yourself, right? This is the 8th house. It's your house of connecting to what matters most, to get down to the truth of the matter, right? The real, raw, deep truth. But with Venus, it's very enjoyable. And it could be involving relationships for you, actually, more than likely, because Venus does rule your 7th. And so getting deeper there, passionate there, open, vulnerable there, having trust there with others and our feelings, our emotions, right? This type of thing. But Venus is all about the seeing the beauty of it and the value of it. And I think you'll certainly be seeing that on some level for these coming weeks. Now, Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus does go retrograde, and this is in your 5th house of self-expression. In fact, this is going to be a key area with Jupiter square Pluto I'm going to talk about. But now for the next 6 months, good time to re-examine your self-expression. Re-examine the things that are close to your heart. Who's close to your heart? What's close to your heart? What are the things that you enjoy, passionate about? Get those, that creative energy flowing. And if there's been anything like creative projects or whatever you've been working on, maybe now reconsidering, redoing it. And so it's a 6-month process, and all the stuff you're learning or rethinking or redoing during the 6 months involving this, it's going to be very valuable for you. So use this time. I think there could be a shift midweek here in terms of going, oh yeah, okay, so now something to learn, to think about involving this freedom of self-expression. Because that's what Uranus has been showing you. It's been going on for like 8 years. And so, it's about being your true self, expressing your true self. And now a lot to learn or reconsider, rethink about it. If those of you have been feeling more of the bottlenecked energy with Uranus here, that lifts up a bit. Okay, I do want to mention that. But it's all turning it internalized, right, for this inner reflection involving this area. Now, Friday is the Jupiter square up to Pluto. Very important. This has been Jupiter in your 11th house. So for about the past 10 months, really good for expanding the future for you, or your sense of community, or friends or network circles, but also future for yourself in terms of your aspirations, your personal ideals, hopes and wishes for the future. This is what's been expanding. And it's going to be a great week for taking some steps in action towards this area if you're guided to. Right now, it's, I think, on the easier side, because this has been going on since November, and it's involving a benefic Jupiter. So use it, right? If you feel the inspiration or you feel that sort of push to take some steps or actions with that square towards expanding your aspirations, your ideals, or maybe your sense of community or friends or whatever it is for you. Really good there, I feel like. Now, the other area is involving your financial or material side to things and your sense of self-reliance. This has been Pluto for the past 10 years helping you transform your sense of self-worth, and through facing any fears about resources, fears of maybe not having inner resources or outer resources. So that's been transforming, and a lot of you have been likely approaching this area with minimalism, right? Being okay with living minimal lifestyle because of the non-attachment. And that's what it's all about. Through non-attachment to the resources, into the material world here, involving finances or whatever, that non-attachment is what creates the powerful change here and the liberation to free ourselves up here. So you could be seeing what actions to take in the face of maybe some of these fears or inhibitions, if there are any. And it's through the acceptance of them that we then free ourselves up, right? Because once we truly accept the fear, the worst case scenario, whatever it is, we free ourselves to then make the change that we would otherwise not have made had we still been in that state. So it's very powerful. It's, again, like I was saying in the collective, it is about this transformation of our perspective, of our belief system, right? And I think that's a big area because Jupiter rules it, and that's where Pluto is in Sagittarius. Now, the other side is that 5th house, which is the house of that self-expression. So while you're reconsidering it, like I was talking about with Uranus retrograde, this week, around Friday, but all week long, if there's any steps you feel like you want to take involving the self-expression or anything or anyone that's close to your heart, all right, it could be an excellent week to take those action steps. So very powerful there. And again, if there's been anything since November in particular involving these areas, it could be specifically involving that. Of course, that depends more on your personal chart. But yeah, I do want to mention that since November, it's been already, this has been going on. And so now it's the final integration, the final change involving those key areas. All right, and next week, as I said on Monday, there is that lunar eclipse in your 3rd house. And so this is going to be an illumination of your mind, right? Like I was saying, there's a lot going on right now with your perspective, the larger perspective. But this is particularly how we think about things, how the mind thinks about things, particularly like the primitive mind or the real survival mind. It's the third house. It's like the practical mind. It's like solving problems, right? So like the left side of the brain, whereas the ninth is more like the right. So the right's really expanding, which is good. At least it's good to be putting energy into that, those beliefs and stuff. But here now there's going to be this illumination. You'll probably feel this weekend about how you actually think about things and that perspective. So this awareness you're going to gain, particularly around Monday, about your thought patterns, your thinking patterns, maybe even to the importance of communication or the importance of sharing ideas or learning ideas. Reading, writing could be emphasized. It's about seeing how there might be some security, some security blankets, you could say, with this area. And that illumination is going to help you become aware of those so you can release those security blankets to then have more balance and peace with your mind, with your perspective. So I'll talk about that in more detail when I get to the actual lunar eclipse report. But for you, it's involving your third house of how you think, how you communicate, and just all in all about going through life in this inquisitive way of wanting to learn and share with others as well, maybe business and trade, but sharing, and how to bring that area back into balance. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus this week, certainly emphasizing your ninth house of the expansion, adventure spirit, really good there. Venus in your eighth, helping you enjoy a bit of the deeper connection. Mercury is in your 10th, and that's been the case. He's going to go retrograde next week, but lots to learn maybe about your work or career. I think your mind's likely here. It could be very practical with all of that. And I think the most important thing this week are these three key areas. Your ideals and aspirations, about expanding those and challenging yourself to expand those. Also about your resources, inner and outer, and about your self-expression and creativity, which is also going through this reflection with Uranus retrograde. All right, so Scorpio and Ophiuchus, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your likes, comments, and shares with these videos. It's been tremendously helpful. And I'll see you next week for some of the daily forecasts. Take care. Sagittarius, welcome to your weekly forecast. So it's an important week for you, I feel like, collectively, for your sign. Jupiter is squaring up to Pluto. Jupiter is your ruler. So let's talk about this first. This is going to go exact on Friday, but it'll essentially be the backdrop to the week. And this is the fact that I think your career, your productive life has been emphasized for about the past 10 months. And this is an area of expansion. So I think it's really good for you to be expanding, your career, seeing potentials there, opportunities. If it's not career, it's your productive life or achievement and success in your life, whatever it is you do on a productive level. And so now with the square up to Pluto, and it's the final one, it's been going on since November, there's now this final integration about maybe making some changes in the face of some fear. Now, I think the fear side of it will likely be there for your sign. It may or may not for the other signs, but I say that because it's Pluto squaring the ruler. And so it's almost like Jupiter here is you in the chart being squared by Pluto. So you can get an idea of this by thinking back to late November, if there's been any changes you made or some fears you faced or decided you were going to make some changes with in the face of those fears. And then again in March 30th, at the end of March, maybe you shifted it in a new direction. If there's been anything involving this in any way. Okay, and now the final culmination. Now I do want to say though, that the first and the second aspects, particularly the first, are always more challenging. Okay, so this is that you've already been acclimated to this energy. You've already been working with it. And it's very powerful, right? So it's about harnessing this power. It's about now this last one. It's like we get it at this point. This final making these changes, taking these steps, whatever it is, by accepting the fear, or the worst case scenario, or the inhibition, or whatever it is, to make the changes we want to see, if you're guided to. But with squares, usually it's a good time to take some action steps towards whatever we may feel guided to, but maybe uncomfortable to take. Okay, so I think it's involving you in many ways on a fundamental level, because again, it's your ruler, but it could certainly be about this career area. Okay, maybe things involving where you're expanding on that level, because that's where the opportunity is. And so maybe there's some things involving your independence that you are, again, transforming. Your you as a person have been transforming very much for the past 10 years with Pluto in your sign. And so it's been this continuous metamorphosis. So it's another positive step in this direction. In fact, it's actually good to have your ruler squaring up to this in this aspect to help you take these, transformations to a new level. It doesn't need to be blown out of proportion, but it's about understanding that there are, of course, these deep things, these deep fears and inhibitions and even attachments and stuff we all have that in these opportunities, in these times, we can, accept, become more aware of them, and then make the changes in the face of them. That can be very powerful. And I think it is going to be powerful for a lot of you. So it's going to be expanding you, I think, further with a productive life, also with your identity, right? Yourself, first house, Pluto in the first, this metamorphosis of you, and even to your home and your health area, which is the area Jupiter rules. So the other area Jupiter rules. So this is, some things maybe, again, relating back to November, but involving home, family, health, your roots, your emotions, these types of things that you can also make some positive changes with. So it's involving very important houses, These are the angular houses. You got your career, you got yourself, you got your home, health, very important areas of life. And so those are the key areas that are getting activated in terms of, again, with the square, making those changes. Now, one thing I do want to mention about this fourth house is that Uranus is going retrograde midweek before the exact with Jupiter, Pluto on Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus goes retrograde in the fourth. Really good time to be reconsidering maybe some things involving home or health. And it's about freedom. It's been about freedom past 8 years here. Having more freedom with this area of liberation, of going with the flow with Pisces. And so now it's a good time to reconsider, rethink some of these things. Wednesday, Thursday, you'll likely notice a shift here, going more internalized with home, health, and the, again, importance of freedom here in this area. And so a lot of the stuff you learn the next 6 months will be very valuable for you to learn about. So when Uranus goes direct, you'll be implementing and continuing to cultivate that freedom in that area. All right, so a couple other minor things. Venus is going to be going into your 7th house. I guess not that minor, actually. At the beginning of the week, you'll probably find you're enjoying a bit of relationship connection, a bit of enjoyment there with existing relationships or maybe new ones, or socializing a bit. Gemini's your 7th house, so it's maybe about sharing ideas and things like that. But yeah, certainly emphasizing the enjoyment and seeing more value probably about relationships in your life. Maybe even improving them, or maybe connecting with your friends. Venus rules your 6th and your 11th. And I also want to mention too how next week we are going to have that lunar eclipse. And that's going to be an emphasis of your 2nd house of your self-reliance. Okay, so this is with the South Node suggesting that this lunar eclipse, this full moon energy, you'll probably feel this weekend, but specifically around Monday, about maybe some security blankets or something that may be very new, or maybe we don't even know about yet, because we haven't had an eclipse with the South Node in Capricorn yet. So maybe some things involving some security blankets or attachments or something we will be becoming aware of around the lunar eclipse that we can let go of. Let go of the security side of it, right? The yearning for it, the attachment, that kind of thing. And so there's an illumination here about bringing more balance back to your self-reliance and maybe your finances, your personal values in the material realm through that awareness. Okay, so that'll be a very good energy to work with for all of us, and I think it will certainly be helping you cultivate a bit of balance and health with this these resources in life. 2nd house, inner resources, sense of self-worth, and outer resources such as investments and savings. Now, I do also want to mention, actually, on that note, I think right now is a really good time for being aware of the importance of interdependency in your life. You got the Sun and Mars in your 8th house, right? Because we do live in an interdependent world, and it's really good to be, trusting others and sharing with others and relying on others, and if it's not materially, maybe it's emotionally, through vulnerability, sharing yourself with others, that kind of a thing. So that's where a lot of motivation and drive is, or can be. A lot of you maybe are researching at this time, uncovering hidden things about life or about yourself, doing this transformation process, as the Sun will be finishing up your 8th house, actually. So, pretty much at the same time as this lunar eclipse on Monday of next week, the Sun will be going into your 9th. And that'll likely be this transformation of your sign, or your house rather, of expanding your horizons, seeing the big picture with the Sun there and soon to be Mars there. But right now, this week, certainly about this deeper connection, trust, vulnerability, connecting to what matters most in life. All right, so Sagittarius, have a fantastic week. Thank you for all of your likes, comments, and shares with these videos. It's been tremendously helpful. And I'll see you all next week for some of the daily forecasts. All right, have a good one. Talk to you soon. Capricorn, welcome to your weekly forecast. So let's get some context here. We've got the Sun and Mars in your 7th house of relationships. A lot of you are more motivated here in this area, maybe to connect with others, maybe existing relationships, maybe new relationships could be forming at this time with this lunar cycle. But either way, you're very direct here. Your focus is here. And there's a lot of energy to be had expressing yourself in relationships or connecting there, maybe emotionally, maybe with friends, in fact, that kind of thing. So along with that, Venus is going to be going into your 6th house right at the beginning of the week. And so you'll likely find the shift of seeing more value with your day-to-day. Maybe the value of your work in terms of your day-to-day work, value of personal growth and development, health perhaps, or time management, routine, that kind of thing, and enjoying it. Seeing the value of it and enjoying it. And some of you too, maybe even forming some relationships or continuing to develop relationships in your work or in your day-to-day sphere there. Probably feeling quite creative as well. A lot of you will have a lot of creative energy, I think, for your work and even career. Some of you maybe even improving and working on your career, in fact. So that's the Venus shift. Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus goes retrograde. And this is in your 3rd house of thinking and of communication. And this has been the importance of you really finding the liberation of you communicating, yourself, sharing ideas, connecting with your community, sharing ideas there maybe, or your peers, and the freedom of thinking outside the box and being very inquisitive and unordinary, unorthodox with our thinking, very progressive. So it's been like that for 8 years with Uranus in your 3rd, maybe. Coming up with ideas, trying new and different things with practicality, learning, and all this that can be very freeing for you. But now Uranus going retrograde is suggesting this sort of shift. Maybe you'll be re-examining communication, re-examining how you think about things, re-examining maybe anything that involves this sharing that usually takes place with the 3rd house, whether it's with your community or of ideas or whatever it might be. So it's a good time, Wednesday, Thursday, to start to rethink how you think, rethink how you communicate. You'll likely notice that shift anyways, but by consciously aligning to it, you'll likely find that over the next 6 months, there's a lot to learn about this area and the freedom that arises through expressing ourselves, through coming up with new and innovative ideas, and through connecting with our peers in our community. And all the stuff you learn will then be implemented once Uranus goes direct. Now, Friday, the most important thing we've got this week, Jupiter squaring up to Pluto, is involving, first of all, your ninth house. So for about the past 10 months, a lot of you have been having some opportunities here for you to expand your horizons. Some of you is quite literally, maybe through travel, adventure. Others, maybe through your philosophy, higher learning, university studies. All this stuff that involves either expanding your mind or your body. And even your emotions as well, actually. You know, just tapping into that spirit for life. And some of you too like that type of spirituality and philosophy. So whatever's been expanding for you now, and this has been the case since November, there's been this importance of, really changing your belief systems, your perspective. It's very much like the general I was talking about for you because, the general forecast, because Jupiter is in your ninth of your beliefs, expanding your beliefs and potentials, what's possible in your life and letting go of limiting belief systems and learning more about manifestation through our belief systems and all of this. So it's a really good week for implementation of actually getting into the ground, right, into the work and establishing and building upon this belief and this spirit for life. And this can be very constructive. Now, it may involve you becoming more aware of any fears of loss you might have. Pluto's been in your 12th house for the past 10 years, since 2007, helping you see the importance of letting go of what we don't have control over, right? Of letting go of the things that maybe we're afraid of losing. And so it's very deep with the 12th house. And it's very much about your unconscious mind. And I think a lot of you will be learning more about this, learning how to work with the unconscious mind. This is the mutable houses here. And even the mutable signs, actually. So this is the belief system, right? The 12th house is the unconscious mind, which is going through this metamorphosis. And it's an excellent week to dive deep, right? To maybe get that alone time, to meditate, to see the power of the unconscious mind, and to be more aware of it. And this is the third house of the practical mind. Uranus going retrograde here, but Jupiter also rules Pisces, your third house. So there's this step too about taking these steps towards ideas, towards how you think. And so along with the reflection there is this transformation occurring with your mind, with your perspective, both on a practical sense, the left side of the brain, third house, but also the right side of the brain, the ninth house, the beliefs, how we think and what we believe, and the unconscious mind. So it's all very much about perspective for you, I feel like. And, I think it's an excellent week for getting in touch with that. Your belief systems, how you think, and then the unconscious mind, maybe through meditation or your alone time or whatever that is there. And it can be very powerful. And if you're guided to, it could be an excellent week for change in any of those areas. And it's the last one. Again, it's been going on since November. And there's been shifts, especially since March. But now it's a final integration with all of this. All right, so Capricorn, that's the week in a nutshell. We do, of course, have that lunar eclipse in your sign, actually, on Monday. So it's going to be an excellent time to do a status check about yourself, your independence, where you're heading in life. You could start to gain some awareness this weekend, actually. And, with the South Node, it is about releasing. And so if you do find that there's some awareness about some security blankets, maybe involving your independence, right? That you're becoming more aware of, involving, us, because the first house is the house of us. It's our personal needs. And of course, we do need to have our independence and our personal needs and all this. It is also important to see if there's any security blankets we have with it, any attachments we have with it. So it's still early, but I just want to mention that this lunar eclipse, specifically around Monday, will be helping illuminate more about yourself and your independence in such a way that it'll help you release any baggage to help you have more balance with this area. Not that it's not in balance, but in this from this perspective about letting go of those security blankets so that you can have this balanced independence in your life. All right, so Capricorn, have a fantastic week. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please like, comment, and share. It's very much appreciated. And sending you my very best, and I'll see you next week for the daily forecasts. All right, Capricorn, take care. Aquarius, welcome to your weekly forecast. So as some backdrop here, you've got your Sun and Mars in your 6th house of routine. I think it's really good for your work right now. Anything you do on a day-to-day level, you got the motivation, you got the drive, you got the focus with the Sun, and it's all part of this cycle. So I think things will continue to unfold for you here involving anything regarding your day-to-day, your work, and even to your personal growth and development, if it's on that side of it for you. You've also got Mercury in your 7th house of relationships. There's likely a lot of communication or learning or self-expression taking place in your relationships, maybe even to a bit of openness and vulnerability, which can be very positive, which I'm actually going to talk more about with Jupiter square Pluto for you. But yeah, the 7th house of relationships, where you're going to have a solar eclipse here in a few weeks. New beginnings involving relationships, as there has been. But yeah, more steps in that direction. A lot of the stuff you're learning about or thinking about regarding relationships this week is sort of laying the foundation for that. So let's take a look at the beginning of the week. We have Venus going into your 5th house of Gemini. So I think a lot of you will start to enjoy maybe a bit of creativity, maybe creative projects. Some of you may be expressing yourself, again, enjoying that. Anything that's close to your heart, anyone that's close to your heart, very good to connect there with Venus. And it's really just helping you have a bit of fun, enjoying a bit of fun, actually, with Venus there. And that could all be very, very enjoyable. Get your creative energies flowing and that kind of thing. Now, Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus is going retrograde, and this is in your 2nd house of your inner and outer resources. So the past 8 years, Uranus has been helping you have more freedom here. Really access your inner resources, your sense of self-worth, all right, your natural gifts. And through that connection, it's very liberating. And also, too, because of that, it's been a good time for you to be developing your material security, investment, savings, whatever that is, in such a way that it's giving you more freedom in your life. And it could be, sometimes we get too preoccupied with finances and it can become a burden. So Uranus is so it's not about having it or not having it. It's about changing your perspective of it. And that's what Uranus has been helping you do, is to get into this perspective about freedom, about liberation. And with Pisces, about letting go and surrendering, because that's naturally how it is for you. Pisces in your 2nd house, surrendering, letting go. Regarding this area, a lot of you are very selfless when it comes to income and value and what you give to society and things. But anyways, Uranus is going retrograde Wednesday, Thursday. Now a good time to reflect on and reconsider the importance of freedom when it comes to the resources, inner resources and outer resources. Now this area is also getting activated with that Jupiter square up to Pluto. So on Friday with this, there's 3 key areas that are getting activated. Your 8th house, which is where Jupiter's been, which has to do with depth and vulnerability. There's a lot of positive energy here. It's also the house of interdependency, seeing the importance of relying on others and sharing resources and all this. You're learning a lot about that, and about vulnerability and openness and transformation and healing and all this deeper stuff about your psyche too, also expanding. So that area is getting activated. Your 11th house is getting activated. So this is the house of our future. In fact, this is likely the pinnacle of it, because Jupiter rules Sag and Pluto's in Sag. So your future perspective is changing this week, along with the deeper connection and all that I just talked about. But your perspective on the future, your ideals, your aspirations are changing. Some of you even too, you're going to find that maybe there's some changes you want to make with your network circles or your friends or your community. And those changes can be very positive, very powerful. So it's sometimes uncomfortable to make the changes with the square, but we feel like it's a change we want to make. And maybe there's even fears arising from it that, could be preventing us from making that. But if you're guided to, it could be an excellent week for making change so you can have more depth, vulnerability, healthy interdependency in your life, as well as connect to things larger than yourself, such as friends, community, and your future aspirations, future hopes and wishes. And this is also the 2nd house, as I was saying. Jupiter rules your 2nd, so it could be making some changes this week financially. And in the face of any fears or inhibitions, seeing that you do have the inner resources and the capabilities to cultivate the things you want in life, the things you value. And so an excellent week for taking the steps towards that. I think it's going to be transformational. I think it's going to be deep, but not too deep. It's Jupiter. Usually it comes across as quite positive, actually. Not to mention it's been going on since November, so we're already very acclimated to this energy. But yeah, if there's anything this week about changes in these key areas, the depth, the aspiration or community, friends, as well as the resources, I think it's an excellent week to make those changes if you're guided to. All right, so Aquarius, that's the week in a nutshell. Monday, we do have that lunar eclipse. I'll talk about this in a separate video. But I do want to mention early that this is involving your 12th house. These eclipses now, which is actually nice, you got the South Node actually coming out of your sign, which if you've been feeling like the past year and a half has been deeper in any way, or you've been letting go of some past life energy or whatever, and maybe that's been lifting up a little bit lately with South Node leaving your sign, that's lifting up. But the lunar eclipse here is going to now illuminate your unconscious. It's going to illuminate your 12th house about where you can really surrender and let go in life, and through that surrender find peace. But with the South Node, it suggests usually there's this perhaps security blanket, right? So is there any security blankets you might have involving the 12th house, involving hiding away or retreating or not living in this world? And this is what's being illuminated for you to then release here, mostly around Monday of next week. That be very liberating, very transformational, and set you off into this new direction of your journey, which right now is certainly about relationships. Generally, last year and this year, North Node in Leo. And that's where the solar eclipse will be in a few weeks, starting a new beginning here involving your one-to-one connections. All right, so Aquarius, have a fantastic week. Thank you again for all of your support with this channel. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them for you. And I'll see you next week for the daily forecasts. Take care. Pisces, welcome to your weekly forecast. All right, another important week for your sign with your ruler Jupiter, traditional ruler, squaring up to Pluto. And so this has been going on since November. I think that it is deep, but it's also something that has been already acclimated. I think you've been acclimated to it since November. And so this is involving your 7th house of relationships, which is what's been expanding for you. Okay, that's where the opportunities have been, which is really good. We'll talk about that. It's also involving your 10th house of career. That's where the changes have been. And the changes there have been for like the past 10 years. Facing some fears, perhaps, to make the changes you want to see with your career or productive life. And then the other area is your sign, because, of course, this is your ruler, rules Pisces, which is an area that we're going to be reflecting on this week. Uranus going retrograde in your sign. So some things to reconsider about self, particularly about you being who you truly are, right? Your true self, which we'll talk about. So let's break this down in terms of your ruler in the 7th. For about the past 10 months, this area of relationships has been expanding for you, or your life has been emphasizing it. There's been more of a theme regarding relationships, the importance of cooperation, give and take, mutuality, these kinds of things. And so now, with this final integration, August 4th, around Friday, this shift about taking some steps and actions, maybe with relationships in such a way that might be uncomfortable, but it's a step you know you need to take or want to take. And it, again, may require facing some fears to do that. Now, I don't think it's all going to be relationship related, but I think on some level it is as the theme or the backdrop in some way. And so as you take it slow, right? Go at your own pace. But if you're feeling guided to take those steps and actions this week, to align yourself with this, I think it's integrating something in a final sense that maybe has been going on since November here, generally. And if there has been anything specific in your life since late November, it could be relating to that, but that depends more on your personal chart. So that's the relationship side of it. The 10th house side of it, of career, is that this is also an area of change that for the past 10 years, you've been likely facing some fears to make changes here. So this is a good area to focus on perhaps this week of making change and to remove obstacles, to get down to the matter of things, to really accept the fear, the worst case scenario, whatever it is that, comes up. So taking the steps slowly, steadily, maybe it's not all this week, maybe it's, going on longer. It depends on your personal chart, but it's a very supportive week for challenging yourself to make the changes both here for your relationships. And by changes, it could mean, internal changes. In fact, usually with Pluto, it's all internal because what changes internally first then manifests externally. And we don't have to force anything externally because once we make the internal changes, the external environment naturally changes with ease. But the challenge here is certainly on the inner level. Same with that career, productive. And then also too with yourself, right? So anything involving your goals, your independence, your personal needs. And that's the area that's going through the reflection. So let's talk about this Uranus going retrograde, which will be before this exact on Friday. But, again, this is all week long here. But Wednesday, Thursday, Uranus goes retrograde in your sign. And so for the past 8 years, it's been important for you to have freedom with being who you truly are, individuality, progressiveness, unorthodoxy, right? Eccentricity, being who we truly are. And now you do get a bit of a break with it if it's felt more bottlenecked. But now it's a time of reflecting. It turns inward with the retrograde. And so now reflecting on self. What are your personal needs? Who are you? What is the importance of having freedom and independence in our life? And the sort of stuff you uncover over these next roughly 6 months during the retrograde will be important for you to implement once Uranus goes direct. And this has been happening every year, right? These outer planets go retrograde once a year. And now it's just another step in terms of shifting this reevaluation, the shift midweek about re-examining your goals, who you are, where you're headed in regards to freedom. Because that's the pinnacle here, is the freedom of being who we are through that surrender, letting go in Pisces. So those are the most important things this week. We do have Venus going into your 4th house of home and health. And I think you'll likely find that there's some enjoyment to be had for the coming weeks here. Seeing the value of home, of family, of health, connecting there, enjoying a bit of that personal life. And I also want to mention how next Monday, and we may be feeling this weekend, is this lunar eclipse, which will be taking place in your 11th house. This is the house of your aspirations, of your future hopes and wishes. And so the lunar eclipse will be helping illuminate any security blankets you may have in regards to to your future aspirations or involving your network circles or friends in some way. And through that illumination, it's going to help us all release these securities and liberate us so that we can continue to cultivate our life path. Because for you, the life path direction is all pointing here towards your day-to-day North Node in Leo in your 6th house, where your mind is right now actually with Mercury, about the day-to-day, about the routine, about personal growth and development. That's a really good area to consciously align yourself to. But of course, we have to do the spiritual process, and that's what the lunar eclipse is highlighting, is the spiritual process of becoming more aware of any securities we may have with future aspirations that maybe, through that releasing of the securities will help bring balance to this area. Now, I also want to mention, Pisces, that you do have a lot of 5th house emphasis this week, as you've had last week and even the prior weeks. Sun and Mars are in your 5th, really good for being direct with your self-expression, having a bit of fun, bit of creativity. In fact, that's what this whole cycle has been about. You having some fun or getting into hobbies, interests, or creative, or spending time with those you're close to, or close to your heart, that sort of thing. And so that's where the focus is, that's where the motivation is, and I think it's a really good a week to channel the energy into it. All right, so Pisces, have a great week. Thank you again for all of your support with this channel. If you do have any questions, feel free to comment down below. I'll do my very best to answer them. And I'll see you all next week for the daily forecasts. All right, Pisces, take care.